First contact through symphony. Dr. Sarah Chen sat motionless in her chair at the SETI listening station in New Mexico, her coffee growing cold beside her forgotten sandwich. The signal pattern on her screen made no sense, yet it was undeniably artificial. For 3 days straight, it had been arriving in perfectly timed pulses, each one carrying what seemed like layers of overlapping frequencies. "Dr. Roberts, I need you to hear this," she called out to her mentor, converting the signal into audible sound. What filled the room wasn't the usual repetitive beeps or mathematical sequences they typically studied. Instead, it was something hauntingly beautiful, like an orchestra slowly dying, notes fading one by one into silence. Dr. Roberts, a veteran of 30 years in radio astronomy, adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to the screens. "It's degrading," he observed, pointing to the weakening pattern. "Whatever's sending this is losing power, but the complexity. Sarah, this isn't random. These are harmonics." Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had turned their attention to the signal source, a point near the edge of the Orion Arm. The world's leading physicists and musicians worked side by side, analyzing what they now called the Orpheus signal. It wasn't just music, it was mathematics, engineering, and something more fundamental about the nature of reality itself, all woven together in disappearing symphonies. 2 weeks later, Dr. Chen made the breakthrough. "It's not a message," she announced to the packed conference room at NASA's headquarters. "It's their technology failing. These harmonics, they're not just communication. They're how their entire civilization functions." The room erupted in discussion, but Sarah wasn't finished. She played a sequence she had isolated, a perfect A minor chord that suddenly collapsed into discord. "This civilization uses harmonics to maintain everything from their power systems to their structural integrity. And something is causing these harmonics to break down." Dr. Roberts stood up, his face grave. "If we're right about this, we're not just receiving a distress signal. We're witnessing the death of an entire civilization." The next day, humanity sent its response. Not in radio waves or binary code, but in music. Every major radio telescope on Earth synchronized to broadcast Earth's greatest symphonies, folk songs, and ceremonial music toward the signal's origin. They added mathematical patterns within the music, hoping to demonstrate their understanding and offer help. The response came faster than anyone expected. The dying harmonics suddenly stabilized, and new patterns emerged. Through careful analysis, Earth scientists began to understand, they were communicating with the harmonious, a species that had evolved to perceive and manipulate reality through acoustic resonance. The harmonious shared their story through mathematical music. Their civilization had flourished for millennia, building cities and spacecraft that operated through perfectly maintained harmonic frequencies. But something had begun disrupting these harmonics, a cosmic phenomenon they couldn't counter. Their technology was failing, their cities were literally falling out of tune, and they had no way to stop it. Sarah worked through nights, studying the patterns. "Their harmonic technology is incredibly advanced," she explained to the international task force assembled to handle the crisis. "But it's also their weakness. They never developed alternatives because they never needed to. Their entire civilization depends on maintaining these precise frequencies." A young musician from the Beijing Symphony Orchestra raised her hand. "What if we show them how to adapt? Earth's music has evolved through countless variations, adaptations, and fusions. We've made music with everything from classical instruments to electronic synthesizers to simple sticks and stones." Dr. Roberts nodded slowly. "They've mastered harmony, but they never experienced discord. They never had to find new ways to make music when the old ways failed. That's something humanity has done countless times." As the signal grew weaker, Earth prepared its most ambitious project yet. They would teach the harmonious how to survive through change, how to find new frequencies, new ways of creating the harmonics they needed. Humanity's greatest gift wasn't just its music, it was its ability to adapt, to find harmony in chaos, to create new songs when the old ones faded. The first phase of Project Symphony was about to begin, and with it, humanity's first step into a larger cosmic concert. The Great Silence. The holographic representation of First Resonator Lyra floated in the center of the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, her crystalline form pulsing with fading light. Through the newly established harmonic translation system, her voice emerged as a complex chord progression that the computers converted to speech. "Our youngest are falling silent first," she explained, her form flickering. "Without the proper resonance, they cannot maintain their physical cohesion. We have lost 3,000 in the past cycle alone." The assembled human leaders watched in stunned silence as Lyra shared visual data of her world. The Harmonious lived in crystalline cities that literally sang, each structure maintaining its form through constant harmonic vibrations. But now, those cities were crumbling as their songs fell out of tune, their very matter destabilizing without the precise frequencies that held them together. Dr. Chen, now leading Earth's response team, studied the data with growing concern. "The disruption is spreading faster than we thought. The harmonic degradation isn't just affecting their technology, it's threatening their very existence." The Harmonious had evolved in a region of space where natural quantum frequencies allowed for the development of harmonic-based life. Their bodies were semi-crystalline structures held together by precise vibrations, their thoughts and emotions expressed through complex harmonies. But now, something was changing in their sector of space, disrupting these natural frequencies. "Show them the children's crisis ward," Dr. Roberts suggested quietly to Lyra. The image changed to a vast chamber where thousands of young Harmonious lay in specialized containment fields, their forms barely maintaining coherence. Each one needed constant acoustic support just to survive. A West African griot named Malik Diallo, invited for his expertise in traditional musical storytelling, spoke up. "In my culture, we believe that music is not just sound, it is life force itself. When we lose one rhythm, we don't give up, we find new rhythms, new ways to keep the story alive." This sparked intense discussion among the human experts. If the Harmonious couldn't maintain their traditional frequencies, perhaps they could learn to exist on new ones. But the challenge was immense. It would be like teaching an entire species to rebuild their bodies with different atomic structures. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist and trained shakuhachi player, noticed something in the data. "Look at their harmonic patterns," she pointed to the complex waveforms. "They're not so different from the vibrations we use in quantum computing. What if we could teach them to use quantum entanglement to stabilize their harmonics?" The next transmission to the Harmonious included something new, a demonstration of Earth's quantum harmonics research, combined with recordings of how human music had evolved over thousands of years. From ancient bone flutes to electronic music, from throat singing to symphonies, humanity showed them that adaptation was possible. The Harmonious responded with their own historical records. Their civilization had achieved incredible things through harmonic technology, interstellar travel, matter manipulation, even a form of immortality. But they had never faced a crisis like this, never needed to change their fundamental nature. "We're running out of time," Sarah announced to the council after analyzing the latest data. "The harmonic degradation is accelerating. Within 3 months, their entire civilization will fall silent." First Resonator Lyra's hologram pulsed weakly. "Our scholars believed we had reached the pinnacle of evolution. We thought our mastery of harmony made us superior to species that relied on crude physical technologies. Now we realize that our greatest strength had become our greatest vulnerability." President Garcia of the North American Union stood up. "Then we will teach you what humanity learned through countless disasters and setbacks, how to change, adapt, and find new ways to survive. Your children will not fall silent. Your cities will not crumble. Together, we will find a new song." As the meeting concluded, Dr. Chen returned to her lab where teams of scientists, musicians, and engineers worked around the clock. On her screen, a simulation showed the impossible task ahead: teaching an entire alien species how to rebuild themselves, note by note, frequency by frequency. The question wasn't just whether it was possible, it was whether they could do it in time. And with each passing day, more harmonious fell silent, their songs fading into the void. Humanity's greatest test wasn't just about saving another civilization, it was about proving that their chaotic, adaptable nature might be the greatest strength of all. Operation Soundwave. The massive hangar at NASA's Advanced Research Center hummed with activity as scientists and musicians from around the world assembled what they called the Universal Resonance Engine. Dr. Chen stood before the towering structure, a hybrid of quantum computers, acoustic amplifiers, and something entirely new, crystalline matrices grown using templates provided by the Harmonious. Each crystal has to be perfectly tuned, Dr. Tanaka explained to the UN observers, adjusting controls on her quantum harmonics panel. We're not just creating sound, we're building a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of existing. The project had consumed Earth's scientific and artistic communities for the past month. Traditional instrument makers worked alongside quantum physicists. Classical composers collaborated with AI systems to develop new forms of music that could interface with harmonious technology. Even the world's religious leaders had contributed, sharing ancient chants and tonal meditations that showed surprising compatibility with alien harmonics. But they had also faced setbacks. The first prototype had shattered catastrophically, its crystals unable to handle the complex frequencies. 3 researchers had been hospitalized. The second attempt had produced harmonics that actually accelerated the degradation in test samples. Time was running out. The problem isn't just technical, Malik Diallo observed, watching a simulation of failing harmonious structures. We're trying to teach them a new way of being, like teaching a fish to breathe air. It has to be gradual, natural. Sarah's team had made a crucial discovery: human DNA itself had a harmonic component, a subtle vibration that helped maintain its structure. This suggested that all life, whether carbon-based or crystalline, shared some fundamental musical properties. It was this connection they hoped to exploit. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Li Wei, a young graduate student who had studied both quantum mechanics and traditional Chinese medicine, noticed something in the failed attempts. "We're trying to replace their harmonics entirely," she said during an emergency meeting. "But what if instead we help them adapt their existing frequencies? Like how acupuncture doesn't replace the body's energy, it helps redirect it." This new approach changed everything. Instead of forcing the harmonious to adopt entirely new frequencies, they would help them modify their existing ones. The Universal Resonance Engine was redesigned to create a kind of harmonic scaffold, supporting the aliens' natural frequencies while gradually helping them shift to more stable patterns. First Resonator Lyra's next transmission showed cautious optimism. "Our youngest have responded to your harmonic scaffolding. For the first time since the crisis began, we have hope. But our adult population." Her harmonics wavered. "The process is more difficult for those whose patterns are deeply established." Dr. Roberts, who had been unusually quiet lately, suddenly spoke up. "What about music therapy? We've used it to help human patients relearn basic functions after trauma. The principles might apply here on a civilization-wide scale." The next phase of Operation Soundwave began immediately. Earth's greatest musicians began composing what they called transition symphonies, pieces that started with pure harmonious frequencies and gradually introduced new elements, teaching their alien friends how to adapt through music. The logistics were staggering. The power requirements for the Universal Resonance Engine strained Earth's power grids. Quantum computers worked at their limits, calculating millions of harmonic variations per second. And in space, a fleet of satellites was being positioned to help broadcast the saving frequencies to the harmonious homeworld. But the human spirit showed its true strength in the small moments. A group of children in Kenya learned to sing in harmonious frequencies, their pure voices achieving patterns that advanced technology struggled to create. A monastery in Tibet discovered that their ancient meditation bowls could produce stabilizing harmonics. Indigenous Australian musicians found that their songlines shared mysterious similarities with harmonious spatial mathematics. "We're ready for full power testing," Dr. Chen announced, her voice tight with exhaustion and hope. The universal resonance engine's crystals began to glow, their light pulsing in complex patterns. In the center of the array, a small sample of harmonious matter floated in a containment field, their final test before attempting to help an entire civilization. As the engine powered up, its harmonics building to a crescendo, every person in the hangar held their breath. They were about to find out if humanity's greatest gamble would pay off, if their chaotic, beautiful, ever-changing music could save a species that had never known anything but perfect harmony. The crystals pulsed once, twice, and then the test chamber filled with light. The symphony of two worlds. The test chamber's light faded, revealing the impossible. The harmonious matter sample wasn't just stable, it was singing a new song, one that combined its original frequencies with Earth's harmonic patterns. The hangar erupted in cheers, but Dr. Chen's celebration was cut short by an urgent transmission from the alien homeworld. "The degradation has reached our central resonance spires," First Resonator Lyra's projection flickered violently. "Without them, our entire planetary network will collapse within days. Millions will fall silent at once." Dr. Chen looked at her team, then at the United Nations representatives. "We need to go now. Ready or not, it's time." Within hours, Operation Soundwave shifted into its final, most ambitious phase. The plan was audacious, using Earth's entire network of radio telescopes, communication satellites, and the newly constructed resonance engines to create the largest musical instrument ever conceived. "Think of it as the biggest concert in human history," Malik explained to news agencies worldwide. "Every radio telescope, every broadcast tower, every device capable of producing controlled frequencies will be synchronized into one massive orchestra." The logistics were unprecedented. Power grids worldwide would be strained to their limits. The internet would slow to a crawl as bandwidth was diverted. For 12 hours, much of Earth's technological infrastructure would be dedicated to a single purpose, saving an alien civilization through music. As final preparations were made, humanity showed its true colors. Radio stations worldwide agreed to broadcast the harmonics. Religious leaders of all faiths organized their congregations to sing or chant in synchronized patterns. Schools taught children to hum specific frequencies. Even nature seemed to join in. Scientists discovered that playing certain harmonics caused resonance patterns in Earth's magnetic field, amplifying the signal. T-1 hour, Dr. Tanaka announced in the control center. Around the world, power systems were diverted. Radio telescopes adjusted their positions. In orbit, satellites prepared to relay the complex frequencies. The universal resonance engine's crystals pulsed with building energy. Dr. Roberts looked at the final calculations. "If this works, we're not just saving them, we're helping them evolve. These new harmonics will be passed down to future generations. They'll be different, but stronger." 30 minutes, came the call. In hospitals across the harmonious homeworld, their children's containment fields were being modified to accept the new frequencies. Their great crystal cities, now barely humming, prepared for either restoration or complete collapse. Sarah thought about the enormity of what they were attempting. Humanity, one of the youngest spacefaring races, was trying to save an ancient civilization by teaching them something they had never needed to learn: how to change. 10 minutes. Around the world, people held their breath. In churches, temples, and mosques, millions prayed. In schools, children prepared to sing. Orchestra halls fell silent, their musicians ready. 5 minutes. The universal resonance engine's crystals began to sing, their frequencies building in complex layers. In space, satellites aligned. On 6 continents, radio telescopes pointed toward a single spot in the Orion Arm. 1 minute. Dr. Chen looked at the faces around her, scientists, musicians, diplomats, all united in this moment. Humanity has always found strength in diversity, she said quietly. Today we share that strength. Initiating transmission. The engine's song built to impossible complexity, carrying within it the mathematics of survival, the physics of adaptation, and something more, the essence of humanity's resilience encoded in pure sound. Earth's radio telescopes amplified it, satellites relayed it, and the planet's own magnetic field strengthened it. Across Earth, millions of voices joined in prescribed patterns. Ancient chants merged with quantum harmonics. Children's songs intertwined with cosmic frequencies. For the first time in history, humanity sang as one. The transmission reached the harmonious homeworld in a cascade of sound and mathematics. Their crystalline cities shuddered. Their people vibrated with new frequencies. For one eternal moment, everything hung in balance. Then, from the alien world, came a response, a new harmony, unlike anything either species had heard before. The harmonious were learning to sing a different song, one that could survive the changing cosmos. Their cities began to stabilize, their people strengthened by frequencies they had never imagined possible. But they weren't the only ones changing. As the great symphony continued, something unexpected happened on Earth. The harmonics between the two species created patterns that revealed new understandings of physics, new possibilities in music, new ways of seeing the universe itself. In saving the harmonious, humanity had helped forge something unprecedented, a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of existing. And this was just the beginning. A new harmony. 6 months after Operation Soundwave, the United Nations Assembly Hall had been transformed. Crystalline structures grew alongside human architecture, their gentle harmonics blending with Earth's natural frequencies. First Resonator Lyra, now physically present on Earth, stood before the gathered representatives, her form shimmering with new, stable patterns. We called ourselves the Harmonious because we believed perfect harmony was the height of evolution. Her voice resonated through the chamber, no longer requiring translation. We were wrong. Through humanity's gift, we learned that true harmony comes not from perfection, but from adaptation. The changes in the harmonious civilization had been profound. Their cities now sang with complex new frequencies, stronger and more resilient than before. Their children grew up understanding both the original harmonics of their species and the adaptive patterns learned from Earth. But perhaps most remarkably, they had begun to create new forms of art and technology that would have been impossible with their old, rigid patterns. Dr. Chen, recently appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Harmonious, shared the latest research data. The harmonic bridge between the two species had opened up entirely new fields of science. Quantum computing had taken a revolutionary leap forward. Medical researchers were using modified harmonious frequencies to repair damaged human tissue. Space travel itself was being reimagined through the lens of harmonic physics. But the greatest discovery, Sarah explained, wasn't technological at all. It was the recognition that diversity, of thought, of culture, of being, isn't just beautiful. It's essential for survival. Malik Diallo, now leading a joint human harmonious cultural exchange program, demonstrated by having a group of students perform a new kind of music. Human instruments played alongside crystalline structures, creating sounds that spoke to both species on a fundamental level. The performance brought tears to human eyes and caused harmonious forms to pulse with emotional resonance. We thought we were teaching them to adapt, Dr. Roberts whispered to Sarah, but they've taught us just as much. Look at how much we've grown in just 6 months. He was right. The effort to save the harmonious had changed humanity too. The global cooperation required for Operation Soundwave had broken down old barriers between nations. The recognition that music and mathematics were two expressions of the same universal language had revolutionized education. Even human conflicts had decreased as people recognized the power of harmony over discord. Li Wei, whose insight had helped save the harmonious, presented her findings on what she called universal resonance theory, a new understanding of how all living things, from crystals to DNA, were connected through fundamental harmonics. "We're all part of the same cosmic symphony," she explained. "We just needed to learn how to listen." The Harmonious had begun sharing their vast knowledge of space and time, but with a new humility. Their technology, once rigid in its perfection, was being redesigned with human-inspired adaptability. Joint research stations were being established throughout the galaxy, each one a harmony of both species' strengths. As the assembly concluded, First Resonator Lyra and Dr. Chen announced the most ambitious project yet, the establishment of the Galactic Conservatory, a place where species from across the cosmos could learn from each other's music, science, and ways of being. Its central theme would be the lesson that had saved the Harmonious, that strength lies not in perfection, but in the ability to change. Outside the UN building, crystal spires hummed alongside steel structures, their song a constant reminder of what humanity had achieved. Children played in parks where harmonic fountains created impossible shapes in the air. In orbit, the first joint human Harmonious space station was under construction, its design a physical embodiment of both species' evolution. "We named ourselves Harmonious," Lyra said as she prepared to return to her homeworld, "but you humans taught us what harmony truly means. It is not the absence of discord, but the ability to find beauty in change, strength in difference, and hope in adaptation." Dr. Chen looked out over New York Harbor, where crystalline structures cast rainbow lights across the water. The world had changed irrevocably, but for the better. Humanity had reached out to save another species and in doing so had evolved themselves. The universe, they had learned, was not a place of perfect harmonies, but a grand improvisation where the ability to adapt and change was the truest strength of all. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, other civilizations were hearing the new song of Earth and the Harmonious, a melody that spoke of resilience, adaptation, and the incredible things that could happen when different voices learned to sing together.